Some of you may remember that when I first arrived here 6 years ago, I asked you to introduce yourself to me by telling me what your favorite song was, or who your favorite group or performer was. Just so you know, I've forgotten all of that since then. But at the time, that was a good way to make an identification and to remember some names. So, but you also may recall that some of you asked me who my favorite group was, and I said my favorite group was a band called Rush. Rush is classified as a progressive rock band, and their drummer and lyricist Neil Peart died recently, which had me going through their repertoire of songs again. One of their songs was called Cinderella Man, and I'd like to give you some of the lyrics of that song. A modest man from Mandrake traveled rich to the city. He had a need to discover a use for his newly found wealth. Because he was human, because he had goodness, because he was moral, they called him insane. Eyes wide open, heart undefended, innocence untarnished. Cinderella man, hang on to your plan. Try as they might, they cannot steal your dreams. In the betrayal of his love, he awakened to face a world of cold reality. And a look in the eyes of the hungry awakened him to what he could do. He held up his riches to challenge the hungry, purposeful motion for one so insane. Now, Cinderella Man is not about Jesus, but in some ways it could be. Jesus, too, had goodness and morality. He sought justice for the oppressed and for the poor. And they, too, thought that he was mad. Jesus understands that those who will follow him, his disciples, his little ones, as he calls them in the gospel today, will likely receive the same reception, which is why he rejoices in today's gospel. And he says that they are the ones to whom true wisdom has been given, not to the wise and the learned, but to the little ones, the disciples. All of us, brothers and sisters, are little ones. It's not a derogatory statement. It is an endearment. He is calling us his dear little ones. So this is what we are to understand, that Christ has given us true wisdom through Jesus. And that is because Jesus is the true and just King that the prophet Zechariah foresees in our first reading today. He is meek. He comes riding on a donkey. Why? Not so much out of humility, but because he will banish war and the instruments of war, which in that day and time were considered to be the horses and the chariots, the warriors' bows. Jesus will achieve his justice not through violence, but through love. Jesus is not, however, the Cinderella man. His plans are not just dreams. They are the will of God. But I do like what the song says about the man, how he uses his wealth to feed the hungry, to challenge hunger itself. Jesus had no wealth to speak of to do this, but he does challenge us in our use of material possessions. It is what St. Paul speaks of in our second reading. We are either of the flesh or we are of the Spirit. We can indulge our flesh until our flesh withers and returns to the dust of the earth, leaving nothing. Or we can live in the Spirit, in which case we will rise from the earth as Jesus did. Put in that context, my brothers and sisters, we must realize that it is a daily task. We cannot say, I think I will take a break from that, not even for a coronavirus. We must always give in the proportion that we can give, making sure that God receives the first fruits, not the leftovers. In that way, my brothers and sisters, we lift up our spirits. Even in these uncertain and difficult times, we take the words of Jesus to heart. He says to us, "My yoke is easy and my burden light." That may seem strange to hear in our present circumstances. And indeed, if we tell others that that is what we believe, embrace the Lord, his yoke is easy, his burden light, they may think us mad as well. But like the Cinderella man of the song, we will hang on to our plan. Rather, not our plan, but the Lord's plan. For try as they might, they cannot steal our dreams. Because our dreams, which will someday become a reality, is of a world of peace, a world of justice, a world of equality, and a world of prosperity for all. If we think of it, brothers and sisters, I think we will see the truth of it. You know, I imagine that there are many people with great wealth that we never hear of. We probably don't even know how much they have. Why would that be? Because they're not using it for any purpose other than to satisfy themselves, other than to meet the needs of the flesh, as it were. But we do hear about others. We hear about their generosity, their charity, how they use their wealth to try and change the world to be a better place. Those are the ones we remember. Those are the ones that will go down in history for their efforts. And it's the same with us, brothers and sisters. We are called to reach out and to help one another. I say that because we're kind of reaching a bit of a tipping point here in our parish. We received a wonderful loan to get us through the last couple of months from the government, but that loan is running out in a week. And if we don't see an increase in the offertory in our weekly donations, it's going to mean some hard times for us as a parish. And I just want to offer to you that if you can, if you are able to help us out through the next couple of months, because we don't want to see our staff or our parish ministries suffer if we can at all help it. So I would really just ask you to consider what you can do to help us. And in the end, I think we will hear what Jesus says to us today in that light as well. When we embrace him, our burden is easy, our yoke is light.